समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Later, much later, the daughter of the murdered man and the man who shot him dead watched their children play together in the garden outside. There was loss at both ends, she remembered. Following a first unplanned meeting at a Ludhiana coffee shop, their families had come to exchange small gifts, homegrown flowers, a shalwar kameez, and visit each other's homes. Later, Lalit Maken would write a letter requesting commutation of the life sentence handed out to Ranjit Singh Gill, one of 3 assailants involved in the killing of her father, the Congress Member of Parliament Lalit Maken. As India prepares itself for the looming extradition of the 26/11 terror attack accused Tahawwur Rana, that improbable story of desolation and final absolution holds a special meaning. 4 decades on this year, the assassination of Maken and the extradition proceedings that followed it raised quite painful questions about the ultimate meaning of justice. Lalit Maken's case, the very first of an extradition proceeding brought by India against a terrorism suspect in the West, set up the template for charges of police mishandling of evidence and shoddy investigation, which have stained so many efforts since. There were also bizarre things in that trial. Lead American prosecutor Judy Russell checked herself into a psychiatric hospital after it was discovered she had fabricated death threats purported to have been sent by the men fighting extradition. 15 years would pass between the extradition of Ranjit Singh Gill and the day in 1985 when Avantika was told sternly not to cry when the body of her father was brought home. To understand the significance of the Lalit Maken case involves visiting an India whose understanding of the world was shaped by Cold War paranoia. Foreign leaders, among them former German chancellors Willy Brandt and Helmut Schmidt, were told by no less than Prime Minister Indira Gandhi that the Central Intelligence Agency was fueling pro-Khalistan violence. And 10 days after the Indian Army cleared the Golden Temple of the terrorists who had taken it over, intelligence officers claimed publicly that the CIA had funneled weapons through Pakistan to the followers of the Sikh secessionist leader Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. Even though the idea that the CIA might be seeking to destabilize pro-Soviet Union states wasn't impossible, American intelligence officials insisted that they were innocent of this particular crime. George Bush, the then CIA chief and of course later President of the United States, grumbled in a private letter to the Research and Analysis Wing Chief Rameshwar Nath Kao, and quote from that letter, statements by government officials linking CIA operations with occurrences in Amritsar are completely contrary to the fact and quite distressing. This turn of events is particularly unfortunate coming so closely on the heels of my statement in New Delhi respecting the unity and integrity of India and my long discussions with your Prime Minister. Following the assassination of Indira Gandhi and the rise to power of her son Rajiv Gandhi, you see, the United States had grown quite keen on developing the opening to the West offered by the new Prime Minister. Pro-Khalistan terrorism soon offered itself as a kind of touchstone for developing trust between the two countries. In 1987, the government of India sought the extradition of Ranjit Singh Gill and Sukhminder Singh Sandhu on separate terrorism-related charges. Sukhminder Singh was alleged to have participated in 2 bank robberies in Ahmedabad and Mumbai, as well as an attack on police officers in Udaipur and the kidnapping of another officer in Mumbai, and finally the participation in the assassination of former Indian Army Chief Arun Sridhar Vaidya. For his part, Gill was accused of participating in the hit team that assassinated Lalit Maken, his wife Gitanjali Maken, and one of the MP's constituents, Balkishan Khanna. The 31 July 1985 assassination was carried out in retaliation for the anti-Sikh pogrom in Delhi, which, as you know, had been carried out in the wake of Indira Gandhi's assassination. The two other assassins involved in the killing, police later discovered, was Sukhwinder Singh, who used the pseudonym K.C. Sharma, and Sukhdev Singh, later convicted and executed for his role in the plot to murder General Vaidya. 15-year-old Muhammad Salam, who worked at the Maken home, would later tell a court the three men had loitered outside the house for a time, saying they wanted to see the MP for securing help with a bank loan. In the minutes before the shooting began, they even helped Gitanjali Maken sort through mangoes she was buying from a passing vendor, sorting through the best ones helpfully for her. Even though he fled India on a fake passport identifying him as Yashpal Kashyap, Ranjit Singh was located by Interpol and arrested by police in New Jersey in 1987. The story, however, wasn't anywhere near done. Like now, the idea that the US and the West were willfully shielding terrorists as part of a conspiracy against India was deeply embedded in popular culture and political discourse. Through the Cold War, politicians such as Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru stoked these suspicions. To extradite suspects from the US, though, needed evidence that could stand up to a century of law, which mandates that extradition without an unbiased hearing before an independent judiciary is highly dangerous to liberty. That's a quote, by the way. The Court of Magistrate Ronald Hedges, law scholar Lauren Wolfe has written of the Gill trial, heard evidence from the two men's lawyers that police in Punjab was engaging in torture and in the extrajudicial execution of Sikh men. An affidavit in support of these allegations, which were widely reported in India's own media, was submitted by Ajit Singh Bains, a judge of the Punjab and Haryana High Court who had turned a pro-Khalistan activist. Even though the US was a signatory to international conventions against torture, Hedges reasoned, established law in the US empowered the executive, not the judiciary, to determine if the extradited individuals might be subjected to mistreatment. As late as 2008, United States courts refused to act against the extradition of two American citizens who challenged their proposed surrender to Iraq because of this principle, which is called non-inquiry. The problem was, in fact, the Indian courts, not the American one. In the summer of 1988, the special court judge hearing the Vaidya assassination case, V.L. Ruikar, casts very serious doubt on the confession obtained from key suspect Sukhdev Singh, among the pillars on which the extradition proceedings against Gill rested. Among other things, Judge Ruikar noted that Sukhdev Singh was held in police custody rather than magisterial custody before and after giving his confession. The magistrate did not question Singh about his motives for confessing, nor inspected him for physical signs of torture. And worst of all, the confession was not given in open court. To make things worse, Ruikar's judgment noted, there was evidence in the Antop Hill kidnapping case of a police officer that it never took place. And a handwriting expert who identified one document as having been written by Sukhdev Singh identified exactly the same document in the US proceedings as authored by Sukhminder Singh. Late in 1990, a New York district court granted Ranjit Gill and Sukhminder Sandhu the protection of habeas corpus, but it gave India the right to file fresh extradition requests. The two men were held in jail while this legal battle continued. 10 years later, in 2000, tired of endless legal battles and the time he'd spent in prison, Ranjit Singh Gill actually agreed to be extradited to India. The Delhi High Court bench of Justices Mukul Mudgal and P.K. Bhasin finally upheld his conviction, although serious questions lingered. 4 eyewitnesses who were present at the time Ranjit Singh Gill was alleged to have fired at Lalit Maken declined to identify him. And even though Muhammad Salam, the boy who worked at the Maken home, held by his story, many wondered if it was really possible for him to be certain whether the middle-aged, bearded Sikh in court was the same clean-shaven man he had briefly seen helping Gitanjali Maken buy mangoes. For decades now, the questions over the integrity of India's criminal justice system, as well as the use of torture and planted evidence, have hung over Indian extradition requests in the West, just as they did in 1987. To address these questions would not be a concession to the West, but a step towards giving even Indian citizens the quality of courts and police investigation that they deserve. Too many real criminals, terrorists, murderers, economic offenders, thieves have profited from India's failures for this issue to allowed to be remain hanging. These questions are certain to rise again as Tahawwur Rana's trial proceeds. The Canadian-Pakistani businessman's lawyers argued during his trial in Chicago that the main evidence against him came from a man even more directly involved in the 26/11 attacks, David Coleman Headley. Headley's long, shadowy history as a drug enforcement agency informant, which I've written about in ThePrint, and his record of cutting deals with prosecutors to avoid punishment, make him a potentially toxic witness. Following their first meeting in Ludhiana, Ranjit Gill provided Avantika Maken with insights into his radicalization by the tragic events of 1984. And he, of his own volition, put to rest all the doubts that people had raised over his trial, admitting he was the one who killed Lalit Maken. The son of Khem Singh Gill, who won a Padma Bhushan in 1982 for his contributions to plant genetics, Ranjit Singh Gill had been studying for a PhD when he joined the plot to assassinate Maken, hoping to avenge the hundreds he believed her father had massacred. There may sadly never be such a moment of acknowledgement and amends for those slain on 26/11. The real perpetrators, notably, remain out of reach in Pakistan. Those like Headley who are in prison have expressed little genuine contrition to the victims of their actions. There can be no real justice, the story of Avantika Maken and Ranjit Gill teaches us, until there is first the truth. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm a contributing editor for ThePrint.